Eric, thank you so much for your time. We're really excited to meet you when you come to Luxembourg. Will it be your first time to Luxembourg?
It will be. Yeah. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to it as well.
Well, of course, you're coming here to represent your company and in your role as Director of Investing for GE Ventures. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your company, and what you're hoping to get out of your trip to Luxembourg.
Sure. A little bit about myself. I'm with GE Ventures. I've been on the team now for about 5 years. We invest, just speaking broadly about GE, we invest in a variety of early stage companies. We've been a fund now for the better part of the last 20 years. We're funded entirely by General Electric, the American industrial company, and our focus is really on the next generation of industrial startups. So we care a lot about aerospace and aviation, care a lot about manufacturing, healthcare, and energy. And as you know, those are very large industries that stand to be disrupted by digital technology or by innovation in hardware. We are not especially stage driven or industry driven. We're looking for kind of the next wave of disruption, and that may happen in a lot of what we call horizontal technologies, which are, say, enterprise software ideas that cut across a lot of industry verticals. Maybe they start in agriculture, maybe they start in diversified engineering, or maybe they start in kind of the tech sector, and they're going to migrate over to impact other areas in which GE has some business. And we're interested in finding founders who are highly accomplished, looking to build great teams. We've got a relatively large balance sheet, and we've been able to do deals as large as 20 plus million. We've also done deals as small as 1 million, and we're right now mostly focused on North America, but we do have some investments in Europe and in Israel. We've been increasingly, I think, interested in what's happening in the European landscape. The reality is that starting companies is not a Silicon Valley phenomenon anymore, and some of the best and brightest come from all over the world. And certainly, what we're seeing in Europe as well as in Asia is pretty exciting. So we're excited about being part of the Luxembourg community, I guess, as an anchor point, maybe in Europe.
Well, you covered on so many points there. Firstly, talking about your budget, your balance sheet, you've got quite large funds. What are you hoping to invest in Luxembourg, or does it depend on who you meet here?
Yeah, I think this will be a bit of a learning trip. I think we're right now invested in a couple of companies. They're mostly UK based, and like I said, we've got a presence, I think, pretty strong presence in Israel. You know, this is an interesting opportunity, I think, to get better acquainted with some of the entrepreneurial ecosystem and find out who's working on what, and what needs do founders have. One of the hallmarks of our team is we tend to bring in people from either prior investing roles or bring in founders from other companies, and so we're interested in where an involvement or investment from GE could be impactful to the company's trajectory, right? Where it might fill a need, for example, on the team. It might fill an expertise that's missing, or it might fill an ability to expand geographically where GE's got a footprint. No secret, GE's been a pretty big presence in Europe for a long time. The company bought Alstom as a large provider of turbines out of France, and has a substantial presence in Switzerland. So we've certainly got opportunity to do sourcing in Europe, and then when we're at our best, we're helping companies get outside their local region and expand worldwide.
Sustainability, you mentioned turbines just now. Sustainability is also something that's perhaps on your mind for GE Ventures?
Yeah, a great question. There's few people that see a long future ahead for coal and for fossil fuels, and the reality is that there's a lot more innovation now happening in the trifecta of wind, solar, and energy storage, and particularly energy storage, than there is in, call it, conventional power generation. And so as an energy company, as we look to the future, there's bound to be a lot of companies we're interested in getting behind or helping to support. that are part of a sustainable program. And the Eco Imagination program, which has been run by GE for a number of years, is really designed around outreach to those who are thinking independently of the fossil fuel industry. And I think it's kind of cloaked the type of investments and capital allocation that GE's made over the years. Um, we're currently one of the world's largest providers of wind turbines and wind power, and I think pretty proud of that capability. So it's certainly a focus of our team to think about green tech investing or clean tech investing, whichever moniker you put on it. And Europe's led the way in a lot of ways in sustainability. So excited for the opportunity to meet some entrepreneurs that may be interested in that area.
So obviously the energy field is very important to you and your ideas for the company. Now, Luxembourg also has a relatively nascent space agency, and that's energy of a different sort. Have you ever thought about moving funds towards space startups?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. We've spent a lot of time actually thinking about aerospace. And again, he's got an unusual footprint in this space. We're one of the world's largest providers of aeroderivative turbines for jet engines. And there's a lot more interest in the space tech sector than there had been 10 years ago. I think SpaceX and a couple of others are largely responsible for that new attention. We've spent a lot of time thinking about everything from the launch sector to communications between satellites to how does the existence of small CubeSats become disruptive to the traditional kind of very large heavyweight satellite industry. We've done a very deep dive on what we call downstream geospatial analytics, which is around startups that are building a capability in recognizing images from space at low cost, and in many cases have built out their own constellation of satellites, or who are using machine learning and computer vision techniques in order to process what they see in the pixels. There's a wealth, I think, of development bound to happen in downstream geospatial analytics that are, as we think about market intelligence and market research, right? Being able to observe what's going on real time in the physical world is now possible, whereas it might have only been possible before in the digital world. And that kind of monitoring and tracking is, impactful for a business that frankly puts most of its products out into the open environment, right? Whether they be power plants or manufacturing facilities. Most everything that GE makes in some ways is exposed to the environment, and it's obviously impactful to watch and learn from how those assets are being treated.
And then if an entrepreneur, a startup founder wants to come and meet you, how can they impress you with their personality or their business plan? How long will they get with you? How long will you give them? And how are you going to pick the right people to listen to?
That is probably one of the toughest questions in operating an investment business. I think so I was an operator myself for a number of years, and part of a founding company in an early solar finance enterprise, and so I've been through the process of trying to raise money. It's hard. I'd like to think that our team is pretty strong on being able to make connections for entrepreneurs, and we'll do that whether or not that's potential investment or not. I think we kind of look to the idea of having a captive investment firm as a way to be helpful to founders, whether that's in the form of dollars or that's just in the form of useful connections and potentially customers. I don't think there's one right answer to the question, how do you approach an investor? Having a lot of confidence in the market you're going after, having a really detailed idea of why this is the technology that's ahead of its peers, and usually having some sense of traction ahead of time. I think one of the mistakes entrepreneurs sometimes make is approaching venture capitalists or approaching providers of capital a little bit too early, and trying to sort of fund the company with third-party capital in lieu of funding the company with customers. So obviously a lot cheaper and a lot less dilutive to fund them with customers. So we're interested in companies that have taken that tack and maybe found revenue first before they've found VC money. But it all depends. Some business models, are so standout that it's best to be raising money pre-revenue. I wish there was a single answer to that, but it certainly depends.
Well, yeah. Well, I also read on your CV you love endurance sport and tacos. So here in Luxembourg, many people love cycling. So you can borrow a bicycle over here in Luxembourg and find some hills to cycle up and down if you've got some extra time. And as for the tacos, well, I can't promise you them, but hopefully you'll come away with some gourmet experiences here in Luxembourg and the Grand Région aussi. So really thank you for your time, and we really look forward to having you on behalf of GE Ventures coming to Luxembourg.
Outstanding. I'm looking forward to being there and to meeting in person. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Eric.